Welcome to The Explainer. We've got a fascinating story for you today. It all starts with one anonymous email, but it ends with a $100 million question for some of the biggest companies in the world.
I know. It sounds like the plot of a movie, right? But this is real. It was a real-world experiment that put corporate accountability to the test. And honestly, the results, they might just change how you think about the power of a single voice.
Okay, so where does this all start? Well, our story really kicks off with three things: a super valuable resource, a really violent conflict, and a law that just wasn't being enforced. Just think about the phone or computer you're using to watch this right now. It's packed with raw materials, right? But where they come from, well, it can have a pretty dark side. We're talking about conflict minerals. In places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, the trade in these minerals is literally financing armed groups and fueling a just devastating humanitarian crisis. So this is where you see this huge gap in accountability. I mean, look at this. In 2010, the US passes a law to create transparency. Fast forward to 2022, the government sanctions a huge supplier, the African gold refinery, for financing conflict. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Nope. A year later, you've got hundreds of big, publicly traded companies still listing this sanctioned entity in their official supply chain reports. The system was just clearly broken. So, with this broken system, a team of researchers comes along with a really clever idea. They thought, what if we could change this? What if we could use the company's own systems against them? And their plan was honestly brilliant because it was so simple. They set up a classic experiment. First, they found all the companies listing the sanctioned supplier. Then, they split them into two groups. For one group, the treatment group, they sent a simple, anonymous email. The other group got nothing. The big question was, would anyone even notice a single email sent to some generic corporate hotline? Would it just disappear into the ether? And they got even more clever. They didn't just send one type of message. For half the companies, it was just a simple heads up. Hey, did you know this supplier is sanctioned? But for the other half, they added a little nudge. They included a quote showing how Tesla was already being transparent about this exact same issue in their own reports. It was a genius move, really. A way to see if showing a company how to do the right thing would actually make them do it.
So the first big question was super simple. Did anyone even listen? Did these anonymous tips just go into a spam folder?
The answer was a huge yes. An incredible 80% of the companies they contacted actually responded. So all those corporate grievance hotlines that you might think are just for show, nope. Someone is actually monitoring them. People are listening. And get this, they didn't just listen, they acted. More than a third of them launched internal investigations right away, all from one anonymous email. Another 31% gave real, detailed answers. This is a massive signal that, this kind of private pressure can actually kickstart real action inside a company. Okay, so responding to an email is one thing. But the real test, the thing that actually matters, is public accountability. So, did this little anonymous tip actually make these companies change their official, legally binding reports, the ones they file with the government? Wow. The results were, honestly, they were staggering. The companies that got the email were way more likely to change their official SEC filings. And remember, that's the legal paperwork they have to submit. They were over 10% more likely to just remove the sanctioned supplier from their list, and over 21% more likely to add a note explaining what was going on. The anonymous tip, it actually worked. But here's where it gets really interesting. Remember the two different messages? The type of message mattered a lot. The simple alert, the one that just said, hey, there's a problem, that made companies more likely to just quietly remove the supplier. But the message that had the Tesla example, that one made them almost 30% more likely to publicly explain what was going on. It's like giving them a roadmap for how to be transparent actually made them more transparent. Wild.
So companies are changing their reports. That's great. But did any of it matter to the one group that can really, really move mountains? I'm talking about investors.
Well, the research found that the market didn't just notice these changes, it actively rewarded them. Just like the study says here, investors responded positively. Wall Street was definitely paying attention.
So how much was that attention worth? Okay, this is the key number. The companies that actually took action after getting that tip, their stock returns went up by an extra 2 to 3%. That's compared to the companies that did nothing. The market was literally rewarding transparency in real time. Let's put that 2 to 3% into perspective, because it's a big deal. We're not talking about a symbolic pat on the back here.
For a median-sized company in this study, that little stock bump translated into a $91 to $136 million increase in its market value. Turns out, doing the right thing was also the most profitable thing.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway from this whole corporate detective story?
I mean, the takeaways are pretty clear, and they're really powerful. First, one single person, completely anonymous, can actually influence a huge corporation. It works because it taps into their fear of reputational damage. Second, those corporate hotlines, they're real. People are listening. And maybe most importantly, when government regulation is slow or weak, this kind of private pressure can step in and fill that gap. And as we saw, the market doesn't just see it, it rewards it.
And that really leaves us with a pretty powerful final thought, doesn't it? This whole thing wasn't about a massive public protest or some big government crackdown. It was just one quiet, well-aimed email. It really makes you wonder, if one anonymous email can do all this, what other levers for accountability are just sitting there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to pull them?